Okay, well, I told you in the last video, after we tested it and made the cable, we were going to test it to make sure it worked. Well, I connected to a network. That worked. Wasn't any problems. I connected to a 10 gig switch that I have. That didn't have any issues. But now I want to actually test it with a test kit that I have here. And just so you guys know, I did fix the end on both of these. My mistake was when I put my cap on here, I forgot to push the actual outer jacket in a little bit further, and I noticed that because I was looking at it going, I wonder if I could fix this. And after I took the black collar off that clamps this down, I was like, oh yeah, I could see the jacket had to go in about, it's about 2 millimeters, and that's why this looks perfect now. Okay, so the specs of this cable, and I kept the bag, it is duplex OM3 two-stranded PVC riser indoor. Don't use it outdoor, probably won't last good in the sun, but this is perfect for pulling it in your house, going to like a desk or to your TV to put like a baling or something like that in. I know it's SSF, but it doesn't actually say SSF in the top of the package, and what I mean by up in the actual label there, but I know it's SSF because that's the stuff that we pulled off my reel that I have down there. So let's have a quick test, but before we test stuff, we have to unbox that and have a look at goodies. We need to know what kind of losses we are going to probably see when we test this. Now I'm looking at this technical sheet for this cable, and it says we have, what I'm looking for is how much loss per kilometer. In the right temperature, between -60 Celsius and 85, per kilometer you'll lose 0.5 dB. And that's very key information when you're using it. Not that you're going to be pulling this at a kilometer or stuff like that, because multimode is not really designed to go distance like that, but it's in this sheet here. So the other thing we need to know is we are going to use, or I've already put the ends on this, each end has loss in the connector. And that's a given because every mechanical connector has a loss. This one says it is between, and it says typical, 0.3 dB to max of 0.5 dB. Now, when I was in training class, NetCom, we actually saw this on the OTDR and on our test kits here. Most connectors were between just that, 0.3 and 0.5. So we had to actually do budget and calculations and stuff like that in there. And since we were dealing with loss, or just short cables and stuff, we didn't really see much loss in the fiber because it was too short, but we could calculate loss with the connectors. In here there's a coupler, but every coupler, when you use them and when you're doing planning for fiber, you need to plan out how much loss you're going to have. And that comes down to having the right transceivers or whatever you're going to be powering this with, so that way you have the right amount of light on each end. Because you don't want to build something that doesn't have the right amount of power to transmit through these cables to the other side. So let's test this cable, see how much loss we got. And I'll say it again, thank you very much for Cleerline for sending me this kit. I've used it before. Awesome kit, easy to use. In here we have a whole pile of connectors. We have our 2 pieces of test equipment. We have the optical light source, calibrated, and the power meter, okay? In here we have our power adapters and all that stuff. Don't need to take that out, but what I do need to take out, some fiber cables. Now, these are calibrated proper cables to be doing these tests with. So the first thing we need to do is figure out which cable we need. Well, we are not going to be using a yellow cable because that's single mode, so we can probably get rid of both of those. It comes with 3 cables. What do we got? Oh, I see. So we got SC to SC, LC to LC in multi-mode, and then SC to LC. We're going to use the SC to LC because we're going to be testing LC cables. We don't want to be using too many different jumpers. So these also have on here, as I put them away, on the actual pieces of paper here, they actually test them and tell you what their loss is. So insertion loss and return loss. On this cable, on the LC side, we have 0.11 dB loss. And on the SC side, we have 0.12 dB loss. They're actually telling you what it is. So when you do some calculating and stuff like that, we'll be able to know what that is. But I'll show you that in the video. To furthermore, we need to grab some connectors. Now, I was thinking about using this guy. Remember when I just said we have to calculate our loss in connectors? Well, this right here is a 1 dB loss connector. Probably because it's just a piece of Amazon garbage and it's not really quality. But if we use this guy right here, the Aqua one, the Aqua one, we should have better results. And that's what I'm going to use. We also need this little fitting right here. So that way we can, in the top of this guy right here, we can actually mate our test cable right to the top of our power meter instead of going like we did in class, connector to connector, and having two cables like this and having the cable in the middle, which is a 3-jumper rule or 3-jumper setup. We're not going to do that. Okay, in the top of this, we have on one side 1850 to 1300, which would be multi-mode, and then 1310 to 1650 for single mode. So those will turn it on. Both of them are ready to go. We actually need to make sure that these two are talking to each other. So we need to set the actual units up. And we also need to set up our reference cable that we're going to use for this. And what I mean by that is I'm going to connect this cable to the light source and then to the power meter. We're going to see that it's communicating back and forth and it's going to show us our loss. And then what we do is we click reference and it zeroes it out. So then when we put the other cable in between this and the power meter, we'll see what our loss is. And it's really nice that we have to do that. In class, we didn't have the reference button on one of the units. We actually had to do it manually. Piece of paper, pencil, and write down what we had and then add and subtract. And we used our calculators on our phones, right? I'm gonna show you how we test this. So we got our test cable here. That is our certified launch cable. We can use this. It is SC to LC because we're going to go LC to, and I've already installed in here the connector for this so I can mate it, the LC connector. Okay, I've taken off the little plastic piece that holds these two together because when I measure these I can only put one in at a time. This end's a little bit different because I can just go like this with our little adapter and put it in there. It works. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is turn on our source. Our source is on. And on this button right here, we can change our nanometers and what one we're going to use. So we can click this button and we start off at 1310. And as we keep clicking, it'll cycle through. And I'll show you here. To select our wavelengths, we need to click this button right down here on the bottom right. When we click this, this will go from off and change to those wavelengths. So we'll click this. It's 1310, 1550, 850, 1300, off. On the optical power meter, if we turn it on, we could do the same thing. On the bottom right hand corner, we could change our wavelength, and we need to match this to the other one. So right now it's set at 850 because that's what I last used. We can cycle through. So we have 850, 1300, 980, 1310, 1550, 1490, 1625, 1650, and back to 850. Notice that there is a reference button right here that we click to clear our dB when we are checking our cables. And we are in continuous waveform on here right at the top. So I'll push it again, and we want to go to 850. Okay, so that is set. We'll take this cable, get the rubber guy off, our protective cap off. Now I've already cleaned all my cables because when I'm done with using them, I put them back in cleaned. I use the little cleaners I have in my kit, so I know that they're to clean every time. Now what we have to do is turn on this guy and match the side. So we turn him on, and what we have to do is we have to change our wave to the right one. But this one's already set to 850. What we want to do is, now that this is on, we want to connect this, and you're going to see that this is going to change. Okay? Since this is a calibrated cable that is ready to go, we all we'll have to do is click our reference button, which is this one. And notice it goes to 0. Now that it's set, we can break this and put in our cable. So we'll go like this, plug in this guy over here, and we're on the number 1 cable here that I've already marked. And what we'll do is we'll plug this guy in, and it should tell us how much our loss is once I plug it in. And we are losing 0.63 dB. I'm gonna unplug that. Now, I'm gonna talk about these connectors. These connectors, you can lose between 0.3 and 0.5 dB. Now, 0.63 looks perfect because we are losing hardly any dB loss in each connector. So if we go 0.3 plus 0.3 is 0.6, we're probably losing just a little bit through this connector and maybe some through the fiber. And if it's not terminated 100%, even if it's 100%, you're still going to lose a little bit because it's mechanical. The rest of it. So we were at 0.63. So that is hardly any loss through this cable doing this. And these connectors are really, really, really nice and easy to use. I love using them. They work really well. And as you can tell, me making the cable, we got that. Okay? All right. Well, that was pretty simple, I think. If you have any suggestions of what you guys want me to try and show you, I'd be happy to show you with this kit. I'm going to do another video on doing a 1 cable test, a 2 cable test, and a 3 cable test. And I'm going to explain how those work. I'll go over on another video after that on how to set up the tester and how to go over different settings and stuff like that. But that's in another video. I just wanted to show you guys this cable that I made, my first one using these connectors with doing both of them side by side. Worked great. Hardly any loss. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Links down below, I guess, for the products. And we'll go from there. You guys have a great day. And thanks for watching. Oh, thanks Cleerline for this nice, awesome tool.